It is Thursday, June 22nd. Health bill with heart. President Trump promising big policy changes as he rallies a big crowd in Iowa.
But Obamacare is dead. The single greatest health care plan in the history of the world would not get one Democrat vote. They're obstructionists.
We are live in Washington ahead of the Senate's big reveal.
And a Fox News alert, terror at the airport. A police officer attacked from behind and stabbed in the neck. Why the incident is now being investigated as an act of terrorism as the caliphate calls for more violence.
Also, states of emergency. Tropical storm Cindy slamming into the south at this hour with strong wind and very heavy rain. We are live in the storm's path. Fox and Friends First starts right now. Head straight to our top story. President Trump taking a victory lap as he rallies thousands of supporters in Iowa.
It's always terrific to be able to leave that Washington swamp and spend time with the truly hard-working people. We're very proud of what we've done. We're 5-0. We're 5-0. And we will never be intimidated by the dishonest media corporations fighting only for themselves, but I'm fighting for you. It lies before us to do extraordinary things. History is written by the dreamers, not the doubters.
Griff Jenkins is live in our nation's capital ahead of today's big Obamacare replacement reveal. Good morning, Griff.
Good morning, Heather and Rob. A big day just hours from now. Senate Republicans unveiled their plan to repeal and replace Obamacare, but exactly what's in it remains a mystery. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell rolling out a draft discussion to his members behind closed doors this morning, followed by some documents, not necessarily the entire bill, expected to be posted online later this afternoon. But whatever's in it, the president says it had better have heart.
You know, I've been talking about a plan with heart. I said, add some money to it. A plan with heart. But Obamacare is dead. If we had even a little Democrat support, just a little, like a couple of votes, you'd have everything.
In some of what we may expect, according to unconfirmed leaks, rolling back Medicaid, repealing Obamacare taxes, and cutting funding for Planned Parenthood. Now, Democrats are blasting the secretive legislative process of this rollout. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer taking aim.
Why is it my Republican friends have resorted to such secrecy? There's only one reason. They are ashamed of their bill. If my Republican friends believed it was a good health care bill, one that actually lowered costs and improved care and helped more Americans afford insurance, they'd be preaching it from the mountaintops.
But Congressman Mark Meadows of the House Freedom Caucus says now is the time.
The president is working harder than we are, and that's part of why we've said, now is the time. Americans want results. We want results, and it's about making decisions and getting serious about the president's agenda.
So only time will tell what's in this bill, the details, but in this current state of leaks in Washington, Rob and Heather, we may find out sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Big day here.
People very excited last night, though.
Yeah, big rally.
Especially the girls chomping the gum behind him.
I think we're going to go into that a little bit more a little bit later. Yeah.
Thanks,
All right, Griff, thanks so much. Okay, President Trump also making his first public pitch to install solar panels on his proposed border wall with Mexico.
We're thinking about building the wall as a solar wall, so it creates energy and pays for itself. Mexico will have to pay much less money, and that's good, right?
All right. Construction of the wall expected to begin in the spring of 2018.
In the meantime, President Trump back with the people, and Fox News politics editor Chris Stirewalt says that is exactly where he belongs.
This was what I call the campaign greatest hits remix. You bring it back out, and it was the late campaign Trump, even better, because it was after he got on prompter a little more message discipline, let himself have his flights of fancy and do the comedy part that keeps the crowd engaged and all of that stuff. My question for the White House is, why don't you keep him out there? Why don't you have one of these every fortnight? Why don't you do these a few times a month?
to some extreme weather. A state of emergency for the Gulf Coast as Tropical Storm Cindy just made landfall in southwest Louisiana.
That's right, and an unbelievable shot of violent waves crashing along the Texas coast, a waterspout popping up in Mississippi as life-threatening flooding moves into the south.
We have Fox team coverage for you this morning. Janice Dean here following Cindy's deadly track. But first, let's get to Casey Stegall right in the storm's path, live in Lake Charles, Louisiana. Good morning, Casey.
Good morning. We are certainly feeling the effects of Tropical Storm Cindy early this morning. We've been experiencing intermittent gusty winds and heavy rain, as very typical with these types of systems. It sort of comes and goes. Right now we're in a bit of a lull, but then 10 minutes from now it could be pouring rain and you can hardly see your hand in front of your face. No major reports of damage at this point, but I'm going to hop out of the way and show you the real concern that we're talking about all across the region, and that is localized flooding. Look at this back here, a bayou in Lake Charles. It has been steadily rising, and the fear is it could only get higher because more and more rain is on the way. Before it's all said and done, forecasters say Cindy could dump 6 to 9 inches of rain on the Gulf Coast states, from the Florida Panhandle all the way to Texas, 13 inches in some isolated spots. And look at this, a familiar sight. People using kayaks and boats just to navigate some of the flooded streets here in Lake Charles, Louisiana, taking it all in stride. Now, east of here, in and around New Orleans, more of the same. Blinding rains producing significant flash flooding, forcing residents to seek higher ground.
I was going to drive through it, but the police over there said, you know, they got car stalled, and it was a little too deep to go in there with the car.
Now, Alabama and Mississippi also impacted. In fact, some of the heaviest rainfall could happen in Alabama, Mississippi. The governor of Alabama has declared a state of emergency. In neighboring Biloxi, Mississippi, a rare image, amateur video showing a water spout. In fact, Cindy has spawned several of those in Florida, also some tornadoes. So we're dealing with a very widespread threat here, flooding, potential tornadoes, heavy winds, and unfortunately, the worst is potentially yet to come as Cindy continues to push inland and makes landfall. That's the latest here from Lake Charles. Back to Janice Dean now in New York. Janice?
Hi, Casey. You're actually right where the center of circulation has come on shore, right near Cameron, Louisiana, southwest Louisiana. The storm's made landfall. It's weakening, still a tropical storm, 40-mile-per-hour sustained winds. But you can see the thunderstorms are it's widespread from the center of circulation. That's why we say don't pay attention to the cone, because the effects are going to be widespread all along the central Gulf. The threat for tornadoes, Casey also focused on this. Tornado watch until 1 p.m. Central Time for parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, as some of these, the rotating cells could produce weak tornadoes and some damage. So watching that, the threat for severe weather. No tornado warnings right now, but that watch good until 1 p.m. The legacy from this is going to be the heavy rainfall, 6 to 9 inches, certainly for a widespread region, including the Ohio-Tennessee River Valley. Isolated amounts of over a foot. So flash flood watches and warnings are going to be in effect until really the weekend, as the storm moves in towards the Ohio Valley and dissipates and interacts with a frontal system. So that's going to be really the big problem with Cindy as it continues to weaken. Also want to quickly make mention, we've been dealing with days of heat across the Southwest and California. The highs again today, really extreme. People are urged to, take precautions, watch the kids and the elderly, and bring your pets inside. And then, of course, we'll be watching the remnants of Tropical Storm Cindy. Back to you, Robin.
It seemed like Casey was in the eye, wasn't he?
He really was.
What would be the eye of a hurricane? Yeah.
Yes.
So that's why it was so calm.
The thunderstorms are very widespread. That's why he's seeing calm weather. But that, that could change minutes.
Don't
Just
be fooled.
a pause.
You got it.
All right. Thanks, Janice.
Thanks, Janice. Well, some other stories are following this Fox News alert for you. The hunt for answers intensifying as the FBI investigates the stabbing of a police officer at an airport in Flint, Michigan, as an act of terror.
Yeah, police say the suspect shouted Allahu Akbar before plunging a 12-inch hunting knife into that officer's neck. Jackie Ibanez joins us now with what we're learning about this attack. Jackie.
Hey, good morning, Rob and Heather. Pure panic unfolding at Bishop International Airport in Flint, Michigan, packed with people. Witnesses say the suspect, Amor Fatoui, was screaming Allah Akbar as he entered the terminal with the 12-inch knife similar to the one you see there on your screen on the right-hand side, ambushing Lieutenant Jeff Neville from behind, repeatedly stabbing him in the neck and back. The feds calling it an act of terrorism, saying he had hatred toward the U.S.
He spent a little time in the restroom, dropped both bags and came out, pulled out a knife, yelled Allah Akbar, and stabbed Lieutenant Neville in the neck. He continued to exclaim Allah, and he made a statement something to the effect of, "You have killed people in Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan, and we are all going to die."
Authorities say the suspect, originally from Tunisia, legally entered the U.S. from Canada about a week ago on June 16th, traveled from New York to Michigan, where the violent horror scene played out. Lieutenant Neville was rushed to the hospital for emergency surgery. He is in serious but stable condition this morning. Authorities raiding Fatoui's apartment in Canada, taking 3 people into custody for questioning. Fatoui is facing several charges and will face a judge next Wednesday for a bond hearing. Back to you guys.
Just ridiculous. Yeah. Okay. Jackie, thank you.
Thanks, Jackie. Well, the president's travel ban back on the agenda. It is now in the hands of the Supreme Court. The Trump administration making a final appeal to the justices, arguing that immigration restrictions are too important to ignore. And they want the high court to halt lower court rulings blocking the president's executive order. Now, that bars travelers from 6 Muslim-majority countries from entering the U.S. The Supreme Court meets today for their last scheduled conference before the summer recess.
Well, the White House making major moves in its push for peace overseas. Overnight, President Trump's senior advisor and son-in-law, Jared Kushner, having a productive meeting in Jerusalem with top officials, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Kushner's key focus on his first solo trip to the region, restarting long-stalled peace talks between Israelis and Palestinians. Happening today, family and friends will say a final farewell to Otto Warmbier, the 22-year-old passing away at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center just days after his release from North Korea. Tensions toward the rogue nation remaining at an all-time high right now after Warmbier returned to the United States in a vegetative state that was blamed on botulism by the North Korean regime. Funeral services are being held at Warmbier's former high school in Wyoming. Those services are open to the public.
Well, tensions escalating over the Baltic Sea. Russia releasing some brand new video of the latest clash, showing a NATO fighter jet intercepting a plane carrying Moscow's defense minister. The jet flying a short distance from the Russians' wing, letting all on board know that it was there and that they're being watched. Comes after several aggressive tactics from Russia. Meantime, a military jet loaded with missiles burst into flames, forcing the pilot to eject. Look at this. The F-16 catching fire was during takeoff at Houston's Ellington Field Joint Reserve Base. Emergency crews evacuated the area, waiting for hours for the jet to run out of fuel before approaching. The pilot treated for just minor injuries, thankfully.
All right, this just in. Some good news to report from overseas. Prince Philip back at home in Buckingham Palace this morning after being released from the hospital. The 96-year-old built to last, bouncing back after being admitted for 2 nights for an infection from a pre-existing condition. The palace saying Prince Philip is in good spirits.
That's good.
It's tough, yeah.
96 years old.
I know.
Well, the time now is 12 minutes after the top of the hour. A major backlash on the baseball diamond after a team attacks Tim Tebow's religion. How the manager is now responding. President Trump out of Washington, D.C. and back in the heartland for a campaign-style rally. So how did his message resonate with voters? Lee Carter, one of our favorites, president and pollster with Maslansky and Partners, putting the president to the dial test. Thank you for coming in this morning.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, it was a late night, exciting speech, though, for sure.
It sure was. It was Trump back at his best.
Absolutely. So let's pull out some of the elements. Number one, this is what the president had to say, written in history by the Dreamers. Listen to this.
If we set aside the cynics and the critics, we have a chance, and it's a great chance. It lies before us to do extraordinary things for our country in the years ahead. History is written by the dreamers, not the doubters.
All right, so the grade is?
You can see Republicans loved it. They gave it an A. Independents a B. And even Democrats here gave it a C. When Trump is out there giving these positive messages, really talking about optimism, looking forward, everybody gets on board. This is the campaign Trump. He was out there freestyling a bit. He wasn't scripted. And people really responded well to it.
It was President Trump towards the end of the campaign where he kind of learned how to do the prompter and veer off of it a little bit and then go back on message. So it was really good. Number 2, the president taking care of what he said about taking care of veterans.
It would be a beautiful, beautiful thing if we could get together as two parties that love our country and come up with that great health care and come up with that great tax deal for our people and tax reform and infrastructure and so many other things.
We should actually say that obviously was about both of the parties coming together, and who wouldn't agree with that?
Absolutely. You could see there Republicans A+, Independents B+, Democrats even gave this a C. What people really are optimistic, hopeful that they can come together. This is what they want to hear. Now, there are Democrats who say resist, resist, resist. You can see that's why some of that message was a little bit lower. Independents aren't so sure whether or not they are going to come together, but this is what people want. They want us to unify, especially over issues like tax reform and health care.
And health care, which we will find out some details from the Senate today, so we'll see what happens with that.
Looking forward to that.
Well, this President Trump on building a solar wall. This was interesting.
We're thinking about building the wall as a solar wall so it creates energy and pays for itself. And this way, Mexico will have to pay much less money, and that's good.
I think it's a good idea. What was the grade?
I think Republicans love the idea. They gave it an A. Independents just a B- there. Democrats gave it an F. And that was really surprising to me because they're so supportive of alternative energy.
Right.
But at best, Democrats interpreted this as a joke. And other people just sort of said, you know what, this is almost mocking us. They didn't take it seriously. Republicans thought it was a great idea.
Right.
Independents, again, they also really appreciated it. But Dems were really skeptical. They were wondering if this wasn't just a sort of a snuff towards them rather than a real idea.
Yeah. Finally, though, did you do a dial on the 3 girls sitting behind the president? It was all over Twitter. We're going to talk a little bit more about it, but that was pretty funny.
That was very funny. A lot of people did make comments about the gum chewing.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Lee. Appreciate it as always.
Great to be here.
Rob?
All right, ladies, thanks. 20 minutes after the hour now, hundreds of thousands of car seats being recalled because they could choke your child. Well, you need to know to keep your kids safe. And another day of testimony and still no evidence of Russian collusion. This one came from a former Obama staffer himself. What happened yesterday?
No evidence that through cyber intrusions, votes were altered or suppressed in some way.
And we're also going to have what Kellyanne Conway has to say about this. Also, okay, a Fox Business Alert, parents, listen up to this. Hundreds of thousands of car seats being recalled this morning because they could choke your child.
Tracy Carrasco from our sister network, Fox Business, here with what every parent needs to know. Good morning, Tracy.
Good morning, guys. Now, if you own a Britax Be Safe car seat, you should check to see if it's part of the company's latest safety recall covering chest clips for more than 200,000 safety seats. Britax recalled the clips of the Be Safe 35, the Be Safe 35 Elite, and the Bob Be Safe 35 car seats after finding that the chest clip could break, posing a choking hazard, increasing the risk of children. Now, no reports of any kids choking. Britax says that it will inform car seat owners of the recall and will provide a free replacement clip. Yikes.
Important to know about that,
Yeah,
sure.
It certainly is. All right, let's talk about President Trump already looking at the re-election of 2020, huh?
Yeah, that's right. You know, it's never too early to start talking about the next presidential election. President Trump's campaign will hold its first fundraiser since the 2016 election next week at the president's Washington, D.C. hotel. The event next week is hosted by RNC Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel and National Finance Chairman Steve Wynn. It will be for larger donors, according to a member of the Trump fundraising team. The president officially kicked off his re-election campaign on Inauguration Day by filing Federal Election Commission paperwork, which was the earliest filing of any sitting president. Is that a surprise?
Yeah, maybe some strategic planning there.
Exactly.
So let's talk about George Clooney, though, cashing in big from tequila.
That's right. George Clooney's tequila business is about to make him a lot of money, maybe even more than being an actor. We're talking up to $1 billion. He's selling his Casamigos tequila brand to Diageo, the owner of Johnny Walker, Smirnoff, and Ciroc. The liquor giant will pay $700 million for Casamigos up front, with the option of adding an additional $300 million based on the band's performance over the next 10 years. Clooney launched the brand with two partners in 2013 and says he plans to stick around after this sale closes. He's had a big month. He just had twins, too. So.
Yeah. And that tequila is the best tequila I've ever tasted, and he's an awesome actor, but he's certainly loving capitalism for a very liberal guy out there in Hollywood.
Yeah, he did that with Cindy Crawford's husband.
Yeah,
by the way.
Gerber. Yeah, exactly. And it's great tequila. All right, Tracy, thanks so much.
Thanks, Tracy. Well, speaking of big bucks, if you just happen to have $50 million lying around somewhere or laying around, former First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy's childhood home in Virginia, it's for sale.
I just found $50 million yesterday. The 1919 estate has 9 bedrooms, 11 bathrooms, indoor and outdoor pools, 23,000 square feet.
Whoa.
It'll set the record for the most expensive home sold in that region. Not a bad pad if you got the cash.
Wow, that's huge, though.
Yeah, that's a big home.
A lot of cleaning to do.
Imagine the AC bill. All right, 27 minutes after the hour, President Trump declaring an end to the free rides.
Those seeking admission into our country must be able to support themselves financially.
Well, the major change he's now proposing to our welfare system.
And is the Democratic Party turning on one of their own? Carly Shimkus is here with the rumors swirling around Nancy Pelosi. President Trump taking a victory lap, rallying thousands of supporters in Iowa. It was a big night for him. Good morning to you. You're watching Fox and Friends First, and I'm Heather Childers.
And I'm Rob Schmidt. 30 minutes after the hour, the president making major policy promises. Let's get right to Griff Jenkins live with more from last night's big rally. Hey, Griff.
Hey, Rob and Heather. Senate Republicans are unveiling their plan to repeal and replace Obamacare just hours from now. But what's exactly in it remains a mystery. After weeks of a secretive legislative process, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is rolling out a draft discussion to his members behind closed doors this morning, followed by some documents, not the entire bill, expected to be posted online later today. But whatever's in it, President Trump says Democrats are going to vote against it no matter what.
If we went and got the single greatest health care plan in the history of the world, we would not get one Democrat vote because they're obstructionists. We wouldn't get one Democrat. If we came to you and said, here's your plan, you're going to have the greatest plan in history, and you're going to pay nothing, they'd vote against it, folks. Every single vote.
This plan expected to be more moderate than the House version already passed, but some of what we may expect, according to unconfirmed leaks, rolling back Medicaid, repealing Obamacare taxes, and cutting funding for Planned Parenthood. Democrats are blasting this secretive process. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says they're ashamed of it.
Why is it my Republican friends have resorted to such secrecy? There's only one reason. They are ashamed of their bill. If my Republican friends believed it was a good health care bill, one that actually lowered costs and improved care and helped more Americans afford insurance, they'd be preaching it from the mountaintops.
So eventually we'll find out, guys, what's in it. Republicans hope to vote on it by July 4th.
Huh.
Yeah. Nobody knew what was in Obamacare either.
Exactly what Nancy Pelosi said,
let's
right?
not talk about that,
Read it later.
Mr. Schumer. All right. Thank you, Griff.
Thanks, Griff. Well, another sign of failure, though, for Obamacare, the nation's second largest health insurer officially pulling out of exchanges in the Midwest. Anthem citing a volatile market for their decision to end their agreement in Indiana and Wisconsin next year. Instead, they plan to offer an off-exchange medical plan in 5 counties across Indiana and 1 in Wisconsin.
All right, another testimony about Russia's alleged interference in the election, and yet still no evidence of collusion with the Trump administration. Former Homeland Security Chief Jay Johnson admitting that the Russians did not change any votes.
Is that still your opinion that with respect to the 2016 election, that the intrusions or attempted, whatever it is, Russians or others did not affect the actual voting itself?
Based on everything I know, that is correct. I know of no evidence that through cyber intrusions, votes were altered or suppressed in some way.
Well, Johnson also says he tried to save the country from cyber attacks, but state election officials feared a federal takeover of the process. Well, that brings us to Look Who's Talking. And this morning, Kellyanne Conway, senior advisor to the president, saying the more the media focuses on Russia and collusion, the more it's driving the American people away.
During the campaign, I used to say that there's this total disconnect between what Americans are telling us is important to them and what they're being told is important to them. And I see it again now that he's president. The media and the Democrats have this Russian concussion, and they've lost like muscle memory to be able to function in any other way to talk about anything he's doing. But that doesn't mean the people don't see it.
Like that Russian concussion. Well, in just a few hours, President Trump's Navy Secretary nominee is expected to get grilled by the Senate. Now, Richard Spencer will stand before the Armed Services Committee. Questions ranging on the size of the U.S. Navy, a lack of jets flying, and pilots' faulty breathing systems. Just last week, Defense Secretary Mattis told lawmakers that he was shocked at the state of the U.S. military when he took over the Pentagon. And potential jurors in the case against Army Sergeant Bo Bergdahl will be asked if they have been influenced by these remarks made by President Trump.
He left. He was a deserter. He was a deserter. He was a dirty, rotten deserter.
Well, lawyers saying that those comments could impact the jury. Sergeant Bergdahl is charged with desertion for abandoning his post in Afghanistan back in 2009 before being held captive by the Taliban for 5 years after.
All right, the identities of the 12 jurors on Bill Cosby's sex assault trial are about to be made public. A new report from ABC now saying that 10 of the 12 jurors thought the comedian was guilty but could not convince the other 2 holdouts. After 52 hours of deliberations, this didn't change, and the judge was forced to declare a mistrial.
A stunt on the baseball diamond now facing some major backlash after a minor league team mocks Tim Tebow's faith.
That's right. Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines 24/7, Sirius XM 115, here with an apology this morning. Hey, Carly.
You're absolutely right. But you know what? Tim Tebow really does get attention or draws a crowd wherever he goes. So you know there's going to be some heckling when he steps onto the baseball field. But one minor league team is being accused of mocking Tim Tebow's Christianity. Take a look at this. The Charleston River Dogs mascot had the Bible verse John 3:16 written in eye black, which is something Tim Tebow used to do during his college days. The mascot was also seen Tebowing or pretending to pray on the sidelines, also made famous by Mr. Tebow himself. And then the River Dogs also played the Hallelujah chorus over the loudspeaker every time Tebow went up to bat. So some people are saying, okay, you guys crossed the line. This is inappropriate. So much so that the River Dogs GM released this apology statement saying, while we believe that our promotions were poking fun at Mr. Tebow's celebrity status rather than his religion or baseball career, our intent was not to offend anyone. And for that fact that we did offend, we are sorry. So they're saying they were mocking his fame, not his faith.
They're ball players. They're trying to win.
That Bill Murray mascot, though.
Bill Murray's part owner of that team, you know.
Oh, very interesting. Yeah, I know he's a big baseball fan.
Yeah. So up next, Nancy Pelosi, she is under fire again.
Sure is. Well, what happens when a company is, going under? You blame the leadership. It's the boss's fault. So after that big loss in Georgia, some Democrats are saying their own party needs new leadership. And it's not just folks in Washington. Guys, can you believe it? It's also Hollywood. Super liberal Cher sent out this all-caps tweet saying, congressional race is not Olympics. There's no medal for second place. I admire and respect Nancy Pelosi, but in every race, GOP runs against her. And then this one is really telling. This is a Democratic House candidate in South Carolina. His name is Joe Cunningham. He says the Democratic Party needs new leadership now. If elected, I will not vote for Nancy Pelosi for Speaker.
time to move forward and win again. And then political strategist Bill Kristol also said, single most effective thing Democrats could do to help chances in 2018, Nancy Pelosi announcing she's retiring. So a lot of people are, jumping on this bandwagon. At the same time, people still want Joe Biden to run for president in 2020. So make up your mind.